Hello and good evening. This is Scott Moon for ScottMoonWriter.com. I'm going to do another reading for Bayonet Dawn, a military science fiction novel I completed. This is the first book in the series. Right now it can be acquired on Amazon for 99 cents. At the time of this recording, it may go back up to $2.99, which is a price I like to use for kind of the entry-level book into a series. Also, if you are a Kindle Unlimited reader, you can read it for free or as part of your monthly membership, and you can order it on paperback as well if you like paperback, also through Amazon. So this is Chapter 3 of Bayonet Dawn. Brother. Kevin looked up, sensing the lack of drones, which were the lowest level of air traffic and the most densely mobile, moving in synchronized rows and layers. Large and small, drones populated 3 levels above the rooftops of the highest buildings. There were personal, business, and governmental drones of every possible design. Above the mechanical haze were commercial and private aircraft, mostly sound-dampened helicopters. Military aircraft dominated the top level, operating by a different set of rules from the rest of the populace. He had never met a soldier or a civilian who had been in the air. That took money and prestige. It was the stuff of action movies. Most people walked or rode the rails in trains much closer to or under the surface. He had seen soldiers before, but had never seen the sky clear of vehicles, not with the storm leaving a clear sky in its wake. Far above, satellites and spaceports twinkled like brand new stars in the sky. Beyond everything was the tunnel-filled moon rivaling Earth for industrial importance. Excitement gave way to worry and melancholy. Ace would want to see this. The entire family should be competing for the best spot at the window. "What the hell, Arthur?" he muttered, turning from the window and striding for the door. Outside, he took 3 steps before returning to activate the lock. The Connolly family had nothing to steal, but no one in TB 595 left a door unsecured. Searching the featureless hallway required only a glance. He would have been amazed and relieved to find Ace and Amanda waiting outside. The only time this had happened was on the occasions Kevin returned home to find his brother entertaining Ruby McGuire or some other girl inside the one-room apartment. Rare. Arthur never brought a girlfriend home unless they were both drunk. Unlike the interior of the apartments, the hallway was lit at the expense of the government-subsidized landlords. The cheap, light-emitting diodes were small, high up, surrounded by theft-proof frames. A smart person avoided looking at the retina-piercing bulbs. Harsh lights meant harsh shadows on concrete walls, holding paint 50 years past its gray-green prime. The surface of the floor was rubberized carpet, indestructible, dreary, and never clean. Sure, there were crews that pushed scrubbing machines over the surface, but no one believed they did more than earn the janitor a salary. He stood for a moment in front of the door labeled McGuire. Unlike most of the residences in Tower Building 595, this door was painted maroon with the family name stenciled in careful letters. He wasn't sure where they found paint or how they could afford it, but at least once a month, a member of the McGuire family cleaned the door and painted over vandalism. There was a reason for the pride. Such a large family was extravagant. He didn't understand why they put on pretenses. There wasn't a member of the McGuire clan he didn't like. His brother didn't deserve Gwyneth Ruby McGuire as a girlfriend. Right now, he didn't think his older brother deserved anything. Ace and Amanda Margaret were missing, and the head of the family was playing house with a girl he did not intend to marry. After 3 loud knocks, Kevin pushed on the door without result. Ruby's father and mother were small people who worked in the computer industry. That was one reason they could afford 7 children and paint their door in defiance of neighborhood vandalism. The extravagance frustrated Kevin, but he wasn't worried about that now. Every moment fed his desperation to learn the whereabouts of Ace and Amanda. The fact that his brother was missing only frustrated him. For a moment, he considered the possibility that whatever evil had befallen his twin siblings might also have taken his older brother. It was hard to imagine Arthur Brandon Connolly as the victim of anything. He was shorter than Kevin, but thick with muscle and the physical maturity of full manhood. His older brother was the head of the household and had been for a long time. One of his rules was that Kevin stop sharing food with his younger siblings based on the reality that Arthur and Kevin needed their strength to fight off police, gangs, and rival families. Arthur wasn't all bad. He wasn't the villain Kevin sometimes thought him to be. In a neighborhood as rough as TB 595, hard living made hard rules. His brother never left food on a plate and constantly worked to strengthen himself. Kevin divided his into thirds, ate one, and gave the other portions to the twins. He wished Arthur wasn't a selfish jerk. Their parents had wanted them to go to school, something he had forgotten about until the twin siblings became old enough to study the publicly available government courses. He tried to catch up, but would always consider Ace and Amanda smarter and better than he was. So now he prepared to face his brother, who was shorter than him by several inches, but many times stronger. In moments like these, he felt he was weaker than his older brother and dumber than his younger siblings. He clenched his teeth when Ruby McGuire's parents opened the door. Not that he was waiting for an invitation. The domicile was enormous by neighborhood standards, containing 3 rooms, not including bathroom and kitchen area. All 5 of the cubes were small and overcrowded. Ruby wasn't the only McGuire offspring to welcome guests on a regular basis. "Kevin, your brother is asleep," Mandy McGuire said. "Is there something I can do for you?" "No, Mrs. McGuire. Have you seen the twins?" Mrs. Mandy McGuire seemed alarmed in a schoolteacher kind of way. She searched her own domicile and demanded her husband and her large brood of McGuires and guests sound off if they had seen Ace and Amanda. Kevin ignored them and went straight to the closet-sized room in the back where he knew his brother and Ruby were watching low-budget videos in the dark. Despite the number of people sharing the place, no one would interrupt them. Arthur Connolly was in his prime, a forceful personality on the 10th floor. He was the reason gangs left this part of the building alone. Sometimes Kevin's brother organized resistance, ordering him on to the offensive more often than not, but by and large, Arthur simply thrashed anyone who dared trespass in his realm. It was inconceivable that such a capable tyrant as his brother would allow someone to steal Ace and Amanda. People didn't get taken from the 10th floor of any building. The twins were 15 years old, and even if they had been younger, they would have cried out and resisted an invader. From their early childhood, the twins trusted Arthur and Kevin as though they were the superheroes or gods from mythology. That didn't mean they were helpless or timid. Kevin flung open the door to the back room. His brother and Ruby bolted upright from the couch in the light of the video screen. His shirt was off. Her hair was in disarray with sleep still in her eyes. "Go away, Kevin," she said, waving a hand as she buried her face against Arthur's shoulder. With surprising gentleness, Arthur pushed Ruby aside and stood. "What's wrong?" He moved forward, picking up his shirt and putting it on without looking at it. "Ace and Amanda are gone." "Amanda and Ace," Arthur said. "She's older by almost a minute. Stop flipping it around." Kevin snorted in annoyance. His brother didn't wait for an argument. "They can't be gone. Go and check. Are you awake or sleepwalking?" "You know I'm not." Kevin barely finished the words. Yeah. You know, wake up well is all I'm saying." Ruby jumped to her feet with athleticism few people in Building 595 could match. Gone was her sleepy wistfulness. She tried to shove past Arthur. He pushed her back with one thick arm, struggling to keep her behind him and only succeeding because the room was so small. "Why do you keep barging in on us?" She put both of her hands on Arthur's elbow and shoved with all the weight of her small body. For a moment, the determined move nearly succeeded. She glanced at Kevin as Arthur used both hands to pick her up and put her back on the couch, failing only because she squirmed like an angry human-sized cat while keeping her attention on Kevin. "You think you are so much better than your brother. Then why can't you keep track of the twins?" "Jesus Christ, Ruby." Arthur lifted her off the ground, aimed her at the couch, then reconsidered at the last moment. The fact that he could place her instead of throwing her or dropping her was a testament to his strength. "Let me handle this." Kevin stepped forward as his brother turned from the domestic squabble. He wanted to yell, but thought of his father and pretended more calmness than he felt. Speaking in a lowered voice and using a measured tone, "I am not sleepwalking. I checked everything twice, even picked up the blankets and shook them." Okay, Arthur said. For a moment, the shared hesitation inspired a rare sense of brotherly closeness. Arthur seemed confused and unsure. Kevin didn't know if that was the big brother he wanted right now, but the human emotion reassured part of him that trembled in the wake of nightmares and thunderstorms. For a few heartbeats, he understood his big brother really was the father figure of their little orphan clan. Arthur stalled for time as he finished dressing. It was obvious by his expression he was thinking and working through the problem. Unrestrained, Ruby exploded to her feet and moved so close to Kevin that they touched chest to chest like street fighters. "I told you to stop barging in on us." She reached up to grab the collar of his shirt and gave it a short tug. The movement barely affected his posture, but he got the idea. "I think you want to catch us doing something. Is that it?" She shifted closer, bodies touching, still a fighter, but also something more. "Arthur will find the brats, and you better just leave me and your brother alone." Kevin glared at her as though he didn't know her. This was a version of Ruby McGuire he had never seen. "I thought you liked the twins." This caused her to retreat, her face red in a mixture of anger and embarrassment. She spoke in a softer voice and did not make eye contact. "I love the twins. I love your whole stupid family." Confused, Kevin shook his head, rallied, and launched into the argument with his brother that had to come next. The McGuire family sheltered in one of the extra rooms. Still cursing at Kevin, the head of the Connolly family stormed out of the McGuire domicile. Kevin followed, leaving a wake of family disruption. Too late to keep up with his brother, he hesitated and wondered if it wouldn't be a good idea to personally search these crowded rooms. When he turned, he saw a somewhat chastened Ruby McGuire already shaking her head as though she knew his thoughts. "I'll take care of it, Kevin Connolly," she said. Then, despite being the middle child, she took firm control of her family from youngest to oldest and organized a thorough search of the crowded room. Kevin ran to catch up with his brother. By the time he arrived at their single-room apartment, his brother had already finished another search, throwing blankets and pallets everywhere and even looking in the small cabinets of the cooking and cleaning section. "They aren't here," Arthur said, still facing the other way. He checked the locks on the door and then the windows. Kevin clenched his jaw, wishing he had checked the locks. "Doesn't look forced," Arthur said. "You've got good eyes. Bring the candle over here and look into the keyhole and see if there are metal shavings or anything suspicious." Kevin complied, grateful for something to do and feeling better now that the brother he knew and respected had returned. None of their combined efforts located Ace and Amanda Margaret. There was a subtle and hard-to-be-described sound in Building 595 during a major storm. As a child, Kevin imagined the building speaking, offering comfort and swearing revenge against the wind and rain. The idea of searching the entire 27-story structure eroded the last of his resolve. He resisted the temptation to give up. He thought of his mother and her lists of things to do, but did not know where to start. Several realizations occurred as he considered why anyone would steal the twin. The storm ended and the silence was loud. He could hear car alarms on the city street below and the automated voice of the crosswalk counting down a warning that the light was about to change. "Do you hear that?" Arthur asked. At that precise moment, Kevin sensed something more about the sudden post-storm requiem. A quiet melody unlike any he had ever heard teased either his senses or his imagination. "I think it's a siren," Arthur said, more amazed than angry or afraid. Kevin had always thought the sirens would look something like Ruby McGuire, but nicer and less busty. Kevin raced his brother to the window. He looked for the soldiers and the police officers he had seen during the storm and saw them working toward where they had started. A squad of them had found something. Or someone. 9 soldiers surrounded a tall, lithe figure with silver black hair and skin. A cluster of thick braids reached down her back to her waist. Her close-fitting, uniquely styled clothing seemed vibrant and alive. Kevin thought the stranger was female, not because he could see much of her physique at this distance, but because there was an invisible aura that he sensed more than he understood. Sirens rarely traveled to Earth, and never alone. Watching this one made him think of movie elves and tall samurai maidens, if there was such a thing. Video fiction was unclear on the details of ancient Earth cultures. Arthur cursed under his breath. "I don't like that. I don't like it at all with the twins missing." Kevin couldn't talk while listening to the majestic siren song and studying how the soldiers handled the situation. 2 armored figures stood near the alien. One seemed ready to fight, watching the siren's every move as the other spoke and asked questions, talking with his hands as humans did. The rest of the squad stood back in a defensive perimeter, facing out like Kevin had seen some of the tactical police officers do in the past. He thought of Grandfather Brandon, who had only spoken of major battles or told stories about his friends while on liberty in exotic places, wondering how his hero would handle the situation. Looks like they called in a second squad, Arthur said. That's a lot of firepower for one alien. Why do they sing like that? Kevin asked. Arthur shook his head. I don't know. Kevin experienced a hollow pain in his stomach, like nothing he could remember since the Connollys became a family of 4 orphans. Thank you for listening to Chapter 3 of Bayonet Dawn, the first book in the SMC Marauders series. I'll be working on Chapter 4, Gangs and Librarians, over the next couple of days. This new process I'm doing where I'm actually trying to record and edit audio, kind of like I'm pretending to be a book narrator like my heroes, is a little bit more time-consuming than I thought. I'm hoping maybe I'll get good at it. One of the things I may try to do on my own is practice some different voices and stuff. You know, everybody does voices for, joking around with family and whatnot, so they can be done. I'm just not sure they're very good or that I want to hear them played back to myself because I'm a little self-conscious like everybody else. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Please go to Amazon if you like this. Consider reading the book or the series and leave some reviews. Reviews are extremely important to all authors, especially independently published guys like myself who basically do everything except for editing and book covers on their own. My other book series, The Chronicles of Ken Rowland, is a complete series with an audio book that was narrated by other professionals. So if you like audiobooks, go check those out. And I'll see you next time. Thanks. Take care. Bye.